In Cleveland, Ohio, a heartbreaking tragedy unfolded in January 26, 2017, involving 14-year-old Alianna DeFreeze, a bright and loving middle school student. On what began as a normal school day, Alianna left home for an early morning tutoring session, but never arrived at school. 3 days later, her lifeless body was discovered inside an abandoned house, revealing that she had been abducted, brutally tortured, and murdered. The horrific crime sent shockwaves through the community. Police immediately launched an intensive investigation, reviewing surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses, and combing through evidence. Their relentless efforts eventually led them to identify and arrest the perpetrator, bringing justice to Alianna and her grieving family. This is her story. Alianna DeFreeze was born on June 12, 2002, in Detroit, Michigan, to her parents Donesha Cooper and Damon DeFreeze. Shortly after her birth, the family relocated to Cleveland, Ohio. Sadly, when Alianna was still very young, her parents separated. Despite their breakup, they managed to maintain a healthy co-parenting relationship for the sake of their daughter. As a result, Alianna divided her time between both parents' homes. When she was just 3 years old, her father Damon remarried a woman named Waitanya, who later became Alianna's stepmother. From the very beginning, Alianna's family described her as a happy, bubbly little girl. Even as she grew older, she retained much of her childhood innocence. She loved simple joys, like playing with dolls and stuffed animals. Alianna was enrolled at ePrep, a charter school in Cleveland. By 2017, she was 14 years old and in the 7th grade. She loved going to school and rarely missed a day of classes. However, Alianna had been diagnosed with developmental delays, so she received special education services to help with her learning needs. Unfortunately, the school was located quite a distance from her mother's home, which meant Alianna had to rely on public transportation to get to and from school each day. Both of Alianna's parents were extremely protective of her. They disliked the idea of her taking the bus by herself. To keep her safe, her father would often pick her up after school, and when he couldn't, her stepmother would step in to help. Alianna's daily commute required her to take 2 different buses. Her mother's only comfort about this arrangement was that the second bus stop was located directly across the street from the 4th District Police Station, providing a small sense of security. Alianna's grandmother stayed in constant touch with her by texting throughout the day, and Alianna would always reply, letting her grandmother know which bus she was on. Over time, Alianna became used to traveling this route. She understood that she had to go straight to school and return home immediately, a rule her parents strictly enforced. Since starting at ePrep, she had never experienced any problems navigating to and from school. On the morning of January 26, 2017, Alianna had a tutoring session scheduled for 7 a.m. before her regular classes began. The day started like any other. After getting ready, Donesha walked her daughter to the bus stop located at East 154th Street and Kinsman Avenue. They were in a bit of a rush to catch the bus. Just before Alianna stepped onto the bus, Donesha kissed her goodbye, completely unaware that this would be the last time she would ever see her daughter alive. Later that afternoon, Donesha waited at home for Alianna to return at her usual time. When her daughter didn't arrive, she grew concerned. She called Alianna's phone repeatedly, but each call went straight to voicemail. This was extremely unusual behavior for Alianna. She was responsible and dependable, never failing to return home or respond to calls. Alarmed, Donesha phoned Waitanya, Alianna's stepmother, to check whether she or Damon had picked up Alianna. Both confirmed that they had not seen or picked her up that day. Growing increasingly panicked, Donesha called ePrep school to see if her daughter might still be there or if she had left later than usual. To her shock, the school informed her that Alianna never arrived at school that morning. Panic fully set in. At 4:15 p.m., Donesha reported her daughter missing to the Cleveland Police Department. When police received the report, they immediately contacted ePrep to verify Alianna's absence and gather background information. At first, officers suspected Alianna might have run away, but after speaking with Donesha, school staff, and others close to her, they realized that running away was completely out of character for the 14-year-old. Family and friends also shared that Alianna was very trusting and naive, which made her vulnerable. She could easily be coerced or lured by someone with bad intentions. Hoping she had simply been peer pressured into skipping school, police began searching near her school and popular teen hangouts. After hours of searching, there was still no trace of Alianna. As time passed, Donisha and Damon became increasingly convinced that something terrible had happened to their daughter. They knew Alianna understood the rules about traveling to and from school, and they trusted her to follow them. Deep down, they felt their worst fears were becoming reality. Family, friends, and police combed the route Alianna would have taken that morning. It was confirmed that she boarded the first bus. Her mother had seen her do so, but it was unclear whether she had ever made it to the second bus. Investigators quickly obtained surveillance footage from public buses to trace her movements. Meanwhile, Donisha became angry with the school for failing to notify her immediately when Alianna didn't show up. She had signed up for the school's alert system, which was supposed to call parents when a student was absent. The school later claimed the system malfunctioned, which caused critical hours to be lost in the search. Police received surveillance footage from a nearby neighbor whose camera faced the bus stop where Alianna would transfer to her second bus. The footage confirmed that Alianna got off the first bus, but there was no evidence of her boarding the second bus. Witness interviews produced conflicting information. One witness claimed to have seen Alianna at a nearby McDonald's with another girl that morning. A bus driver told the school principal he saw Alianna getting off his bus around 3:30 p.m. Neither sighting could be verified. This deepened concerns, especially because Alianna had asthma and required daily medication, placing her at even greater risk. For 3 days, police, family, and community volunteers searched tirelessly. Flyers were distributed throughout the city, and residents joined the hunt. On January 29, 2017, 3 days after her disappearance, police organized a massive search focused on abandoned houses near where Alianna was last seen. Around 7 p.m., 3 officers noticed an abandoned property on Fuller Avenue with its back door open. Upon entering, they immediately spotted bloody footprints, along with blood smeared and splattered on the walls. Following the blood trail, officers discovered a bag of blood-covered tools and torn pieces of clothing. Using flashlights, they searched the dark house until they came to a locked door. After kicking it open, they found a body huddled in the corner. Though they couldn't confirm the identity right away, investigators strongly suspected it was Alianna. Once the scene was processed, it was clear that something horrific had occurred. Her backpack and clothing were also found there. Police immediately classified it as a homicide investigation. The medical examiner's autopsy confirmed everyone's fears. The body was indeed Alianna DeFreeze. The report revealed that she had endured unimaginable torture before her death. She had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and stabbed. The killer used several tools during the attack, including a box cutter, screwdriver, and drill. Some of her wounds had partially healed, indicating that she was tortured for hours before being killed. The injuries were so severe that the medical examiner couldn't determine a single cause of death. Investigators reviewed surveillance footage from local businesses near the bus stop. A nearby church provided crucial footage. The video showed Alianna walking alone, then encountering a man at the corner. He appeared to speak to her, causing her to step back. Moments later, both figures disappeared out of frame. A second camera angle captured what appeared to be the man grabbing Alianna and guiding her in the direction of the abandoned house, where her body was later found. Detectives believed they had just witnessed her abduction on camera. Rewinding the footage, they saw the same man walking around earlier that morning, seemingly searching for someone. By comparing known offenders' photos to the footage, detectives identified Christopher Whitaker, a registered sex offender with a violent history. In 2005, he had been convicted of assaulting and stabbing a young woman, serving only 4 years in prison. DNA testing later confirmed that Whitaker's DNA matched evidence found on Alianna's body. 4 days after Alianna's body was discovered, U.S. Marshals arrested Whitaker at a home in Mayfield Heights. During interrogation, Whitaker initially denied involvement, then changed his story multiple times. First, he claimed he had only visited the house days earlier to scrap metal. Later, he admitted to being present when Alianna was killed, but blamed another person. Finally, after hours of questioning, he confessed to killing Alianna, blaming crack cocaine use for his actions. I turned around, and it's like I punched her. After that, it's a blur, like I blacked out. People are going to see me as a monster, but I'm not a monster. I'm just an addict who made a mistake that shouldn't have happened, Whitaker told detectives. With his confession and overwhelming evidence, the case against him was airtight. Whitaker's trial began in February 2018. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, presenting DNA evidence, his confession, and surveillance footage showing the abduction. The defense admitted Whitaker's involvement, but argued that his drug addiction impaired his judgment, attempting to avoid the death sentence. The jury rejected this defense. On February 13, 2018, Whitaker was found guilty on 10 counts. 10 days later, he was sentenced to death. Later in 2018, the abandoned house on Fuller Avenue was demolished at the family's request. In 2019, Alianna's family filed a lawsuit against E-Prep School for failing to alert them to her absence, the city of Cleveland and the owner of the abandoned property. That same year, Governor John Kasich signed the Alianna Alert Bill into law, requiring Ohio schools to notify parents within 120 minutes if a child is absent without prior notice. In 2022, Alianna's family received a $1 million settlement from their lawsuit. They also founded a nonprofit organization in Alianna's name, advocating for the removal of abandoned houses, safe transportation for children to and from school, and other child safety initiatives. Alianna's tragic story shook the Cleveland community to its core. Though justice was served, her loss remains a permanent scar on her family and the city. May her soul rest in peace.